Arkham Knight takes place 1 year after the events of Arkham City. The city is much quieter, crime has reduced to almost zero, and Batman is at the very peak of his powers. But the supervillains haven't been quiet, they've been working behind the scene and plotting their big revenge. And they've realised that they have no chance of owning and taking over Gotham while Batman is still around. And with Joker gone, with Joker being dead following the end of Arkham City, all the supervillains have decided to work together to get rid of their one nemesis, the Batman. And the game takes place on this one night where the supervillains work together and wage war on Gotham.
They all have their own agenda, they all have their history with Batman. That's the great thing about the previous two games. We've established these conflicts and now we're allowing them to play out. Yeah, each villain has their own reason, their own kind of methodology for taking down Batman. They all have the same end goal, but their ways of achieving it are unique to their characters. It's not a truly unified alliance, there's definitely some grey area in there.
Yeah, so Gotham's kind of interesting, I think, because it's sort of regenerating, it's rejuvenated, because following the events of Arkham City, there's kind of a level of hope that's returned to the city, and that's what makes the events of this war that's launched on the city so devastating for the people in Gotham. Yeah, so it's a full-scale evacuation because of this terrorist threat, effectively, because of this threat of this chemical weapon that Scarecrow's planning to explode in Gotham. So nearly everyone's gone. There are obviously police there, but they're massively outnumbered by the gangs. I guess it makes it nice and clear for the player as to their objective. And it's also important that you always feel like Batman, you know, that we don't want you driving around and smashing into like a family of four driving around in their sedan. The big promise of the game is that you feel like Batman, that you should, you know, be the Batman. So for us, we want to make sure that the setup of the game allows the player to do that in the best possible way. But it's not, definitely should say, the city's been evacuated, but it's fully occupied as well. You know, like the gangs have moved in, we're talking hundreds of gang members on the streets, they're tearing the place to pieces, they're joyriding around in cars. So it's not that it's an empty city, it's a fully occupied city, but it's been occupied by hundreds and hundreds of gang members. Yeah, it's a Gotham like you've kind of never seen before. One thing we really wanted to respect was the events of Arkham City, so we didn't want to kind of kill Joker at the end and then say, oh, that was a cheap shot, you know, but like, let here he's not really dead, bring him back. He is dead, dead, yes.
There's references back to Joker in the game. Obviously, he's a major part of the first two games. It definitely has an impact.
We wanted it to feel like, right, what happens when Joker dies? What does that create in this universe? And it creates this kind of power vacuum. And I think what's really interesting for us is that we felt that Joker was like this disruptive force that actually stopped the different supervillains from working together, because he was the one who was sort of agitating all of them, and he was this random element in the middle of all of that. And once he's taken out of the equation, we looked at it and said, well, it's really interesting, because actually the supervillains realise much quicker that working together is actually something that will really be in their interest to destroy the Batman. So it was about really how do the other supervillains fill that power vacuum, and that for us was a really interesting dynamic with Joker being out of the equation. I mean, Harley Quinn is distraught. Her state of mind is, wow, yeah, distraught is probably the best way I can put it. You know, she's seeking revenge very specifically on Batman, who she thinks killed Joker. A lot of people think in the kind of Arkhamverse and the universe are not quite sure what happened in the Monarch Theatre at the end, and there's lots of rumours about whether Batman actually killed Joker or not. Yeah, so she's definitely sworn revenge on Batman.
What about talking about Harley Quinn's pregnancy? It's weird that you would kind of plant those seeds in City and then just say, nope, that didn't happen, or it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it was an idea we were sort of toying with, you know, like what does it mean to her? And it actually was something that was always of phantom pregnancy, that she never really was pregnant, that she wanted to be pregnant so much that sometimes can happen, that you get a positive reaction even though you're not. And that was always kind of the story, and I guess we were sort of surprised that people picked up on it quite as much as they did. Even when we first put it in there, she wasn't really pregnant, and then we sort of had to sort of, all right, hang on, we don't want it to get out of control, we want to make it clear that she's not actually pregnant. So that was how we kind of closed that off a little bit in the DLC.
The Arkham games have always been about providing that power fantasy of being Batman, feeling like Batman. That's an experience that we're taking further with the addition of the Batmobile, the bigger city. But another thing we wanted to explore in this story is, you know, what goes on behind the cowl, like what effect does this journey have on Batman?
You know, like Arkham City was kind of a montage piece of how do all these supervillains fit into this prison environment, whereas this is a much more personal game about an attack on Batman.
And that's really where the Gordons come in. Batman and Gordon have this long-standing relationship, Batman and Oracle also, and this is something that will test Batman over the course of the story, how this relationship works, the secrecy involved, the friendships that will be challenged. What impact does that have on Batman's psyche, and how can we create a more emotional and personal story in Arkham Knight?
Can you tell us as much as you can about Arkham Knight, the character?
Yes, I can tell you his name is the Arkham Knight.
Okay.
And that's pretty much about it. I mean, he's a new supervillain that we've definitely had a lot of fun working on. You know, we felt for this particular arc we wanted a new character in there because it works so well for this story that we're telling. We've still definitely got all the classic characters back, and these are characters, you know, you really know and love, and then we wanted to bring someone new in who could push and test Batman in new ways, you know. And it was also great for us personally to sort of have that opportunity to contribute a little bit to the Batman universe as well.
So is it fair to say that the game is named after that character then?
Actually, the name came first. We were sort of messing around with names for the game, and it's always hard because we obviously wanted to keep Arkham in there because Arkham's kind of the franchise as well, that's the name that people know. It's just kind of one of those things that was sort of a bit fortuitous in that we like this name Arkham Knight, and it fits this character, and it's got lots of different meanings and it's working on lots of different levels. Let's go with that, yeah.
From the little we know about Arkham Knight as a character, like he's holding a gun, but he kind of looks like Batman. Is the whole idea for the character that he's the complete opposite of Batman? And I think at the moment that's all we're saying about him. I mean, he's going to be a formidable foe, I would say that, yeah.
We have a small team of in-house writers now, which is a first for Rocksteady. So we have a little kind of writer's room in that we can bounce ideas off each other, we can iterate very quickly. Sefton knows the game inside out. He's working on it day to day with the team in the studio.
Yeah, I mean, I think we had this idea for sort of how we wanted the Arkham trilogy to end, this big crescendo for the game while we were working on Arkham City, and it just felt right. This is the place it kind of almost feels like it has to end.
So when you got to the studio and Sefton told you how he wanted this game to end, what was your initial reaction?
Awesome. I would say it's bold. I'm not going to reveal what the ending is, but I will say people will be very excited by it, and it'll be a very satisfying conclusion to the trilogy.
I think a lot of fans would look at the end of Arkham City and say, like, that's an amazing ending to an entire trilogy. Like, what tops that other than Batman going down?
Well, it will hopefully be very memorable.